Nagbabalik po ang She Said at kasama pa rin po natin ang Secretary of Education, si Secretary Jesli Lapus. At bago po yan, nagpapasalamat po kami sa SM Department Stores para sa aming mga kasuotan. And we'd also like to thank Tony and Guy. Thank you to Cherry, TJ, and Gian. I'd also like to thank...
Are your water sponsor?
Yeah, I'd also like to thank Dr. Levy Lansangan and Dr. Ana Lansangan of Shemian Manila. Thank you also to Mert Besa of Besas. And for all those who are interested to let their children learn through play, they can always call Gymboree at 910 Play. We have branches at Manila Polo Club in Forbes Park, Shangri-La Mall in Mandaluyong, Trinoma, Eastwood Mall, Serendra, Greenbelt 5, Westgate, Alabang, and Manila Town Center, Cebu, and soon to open one in Rockwell.
Oh,
so
that's a
please
surprise.
call 910 Play for children 0 to 4 years old. So call Gymboree 910 Play.
Oh,
Yeah.
well,
Thank you to Francis Maligan Shaw from R&M Dried Mangoes. We have a little baon for you so you won't have to eat the snacks of Andrea. Dried mango and dried tamarind.
Thank
we
you
will
very
make sure
much.
you have proper water and not from Jackie's Coleman.
this is the best brand.
R&M, yeah, it is the best brand.
Yes.
Excellent. And it's from Cebu.
Right,
Yes.
right. So
Where you're going tomorrow.
If there are sponsors, potential sponsors out there listening, this program could use some
Water.
snacks and water.
You know, he really has a sense of humor. By the way, thank you to Beverly Hills 6750.
Yes, and okay, and thank you also to Classic Herbs Corporation. Thank you to Tita Lilian, Tita Cora, and Jay. Okay, so
He's hungry na yan.
you know why?
Eating the
Yeah, I
chips
know,
and
because-
asking for water.
Yeah, so I said, "Do you want water?" Yeah, and then I had water. I brought water, so
Yeah,
that's why I didn't think I know.
Not even in a glass.
I'm
And you
sorry.
make him sip from a straw that's been
But the
used
straw, no,
already.
I didn't use the straw yet because I just left the house before the show, so I
So,
haven't
you know.
drank.
They say
your
the
family.
next World War will be because of lack of water.
But at
And that's
least
depicted
there
in
was
this room.
water.
There's lack of water.
But at least I
Soon
brought
there's going to
water.
be- We'll be
just trying to
fighting for
save
that drop.
water,
Last drop.
Secretary. You
I'm
know,
sorry.
we're into saving water.
Yes.
And yeah, he was about to say about, like, you were saying about the Secretary of Education. It's not necessarily someone who's taught in elementary or high school, but
Like a hospital does not. Before they say, you can't run a hospital because you're a doctor. Now they will say, why are you running the hospital when you are a doctor? See? So the man at the top
Doesn't
is,
necessarily.
it should be a professional manager.
Yes.
So you have professional managers running, the best run hospital is St. Luke's, concededly. And who's the chairman? Fast food, Robert Kwan of Chowking. Yeah.
Oh.
All
how
right.
come there are no Chowking restaurants inside? Or are there?
No, he's out of Chowking now. That has been bought by Jollibee.
Jollibee.
Right?
Yes,
Oh,
yes.
I see.
But I guess that proves a point.
Yeah.
There was a time when it was a no-no that the CEO of a hospital is not a medical practitioner. But now it's a no-no. If you're a good doctor,
Then you shouldn't
you
be
cannot be
the one to run the
good in
hospital.
everything, right?
Right.
Yes,
I mean,
yes.
so be good at what you're doing and let the professional executives run it.
But anyway, you proved them all wrong. So whatever
Yeah.
they had to say before.
It's like when I joined Land Bank.
Yes.
They say,
Yeah, he was
"Well,
the head of Land Bank.
Yeah, I know, because when I campaigned for him when he ran, I think for the first time for Congress, that's
Yeah.
what we were.
Yes, yes, yes.
And it's considered now. I mean, we were there during the banner years of Land Bank when we grew it from 25 billion to 170 billion. But when I joined, they
Amazing.
said, well, but Jesli is not a banker. He was not a bank clerk. He's not a bank manager. I say, there are thousands of you. My job is to make sure that you become good bank managers. My job is to manage the bank,
Right.
not be a bank manager.
So how
Yes.
did you were saying, how did you manage the school teachers? You were saying, meantime, they're not looking, you're managing how they're treating the schools, and meantime, all the schools are burning. So what approach did you do?
Well, First of all,
Right.
right now we have trained, we've intensified the training for not only teachers but also for principals and up, because you see that while there is shortage of funds in your district, for example, in your congressional district,
Knocks.
different schools have different
Needs.
standards.
Standards.
Yet they have the same shortages. And invariably it's because the principal is better. The principal is more resourceful. The principal has better connection with the community,
Yes,
with the
yes.
alumni, with the congressman, with the mayor. And therefore, there's also discipline among the teachers. While in another school, the principal thinks like a teacher. So she's not been talking to her teachers for 2 years because she still thinks that they're competing with her or she's competing with them. So I say, you are administrators and managers, and they've never had management and leadership training. So we're training them. Our middle management, superintendents, like the likes of the persons you mentioned,
Yes.
sending them to AIM
Wow.
for 3
Really?
weeks.
That's excellent.
AIM, CMEO, etc. Because secretaries come and go. In fact, I'm the 6th secretary in 8 years. And that's
In 8 years?
That's too bad, right? So, are we going to leave the fate of 20 million kids on the
Next.
centralized secretaries? I think we should strengthen the permanent core,
Yes.
management
Yes.
core, which is in the tens of thousands. Principals, supervisors, superintendents, regional directors. They are the civil servants.
Yes.
They're there until they retire.
Forever. Huh.
So they have to be empowered. They have to be trained to become professional executives because really they're managing human resources and financial resources. The biggest in the bureaucracy. How come we don't have that managerial attitude and aptitude? Like the oldest teacher is designated principal of the school. And she might not enjoy administrative work. She might be an excellent teacher. This is why we're also saying, why do everybody, all teachers, they aspire to become superintendent or principal? Because that's the only way in our bureaucracy that they can increase their salaries. So I'm saying, teachers should be contented in remaining as teachers if they love to teach.
Yes.
Right.
Yet it should be worth their while. They should not get the salary that they need only through promotion. But if you remain a teacher for 20 years, that should be fine with you
Yes.
because you're going to be compensated,
Yes.
like you were a principal or like you were
Yeah.
a superintendent. Di ba?
That's excellent, yeah.
Because
Because-
the core group, you cannot elevate all of those into
Right.
that pyramid,
Yeah.
and there's where you start having some human behavioral problems.
Yeah, it's exactly. It's like, so, well, like you meet a head of an agency and they say, she's not competent and you have all these complaints about her and said, how did she become the head of this agency? And they say, well, because she's been working here for more than 10 years.
Seniority.
And it's like, okay, yes.
Well, in other countries, they hire principals. It is like a specific profession. They hire principals.
They import, like in basketball.
They bring in a principal because her job is she's a professional principal.
Yes.
Right. But usually, how are principals chosen? Based on tenure? Like how long they've been
Yeah,
working
well,
at school?
usually seniority.
Seniority.
Yes.
Really
You
seniority.
have to, well, let's face it, government's still based on that. So
Right.
while there's been continuous attempts to go meritocracy, there's still institutional resistance to that.
Okay.
What do you hope that the new Secretary of Education would continue, or what are you hoping for? Since you did make your mark, and it seems you're going to be moving to places.
Yeah. Well, the common anxiety of everybody is that that change might result into a loss of momentum,
Right.
or worse, might result to a backslide.
Right.
Because it's so hard to build It's so hard to introduce reforms. It takes more time to do that than destroy it or set it back.
Yes.
And sometimes reforms need a gestation period. It needs nurturing, it needs getting used to,
Yes.
and it needs time to become embedded in the culture of the workforce. So that is the concern. This is why our people are saying, well, you know, if you're going to leave us because the end of the term of the administration is inevitable, say the only way is you should stay in public service and
Right.
try to continue to shepherd education
Yes.
from another position.
So let's say there's the end of the term is next year, and you will run for the Senate, right?
I'm not declaring.
You're not declaring, okay.
Yeah.
So just in case,
Spoken like a true politician.
not declaring. Okay. Anyway,
Yeah, she's declaring.
I will.
You're declaring.
and so
If you
for
are,
that,
I am
and,
campaigning for you.
they were all the paper. They were all wishing you would run. So yeah, just so you know.
Not that they don't want you to
For that
stay.
reason that I mentioned, it is the clamor is coming
Yes.
from our
Yeah.
workforce
So it's-
and from our networks.
Yes.
And they're saying like, don't leave education. I
Yes.
say it's inevitable. I have to leave education. So some people are saying, well, can't you run for vice president and take on the portfolio of DepEd? I said
Not yet.
that's a tall order. Don't have the funds for that.
Yeah, not
Yes,
yet.
you do. You have the land bank.
But you know what? In Malaysia, the prime minister, immediately prior to becoming prime minister, is minister of education.
Wow, really?
That's Mahathir, that's Anwar Ibrahim. And in Vietnam, the minister of education is concurrently vice premier.
Oh, there you go.
Number
There's a
2.
trend.
So in most countries, because the fact is, education is responsible for the critical mass of the population, right? And therefore, grassroots, it's the only department that is present in every barangay. And you combine the armed forces and the police, education is bigger.
Okay. What was the most difficult problem you had when you became secretary? Like in the field of education?
Well, precisely because we are frontline, and frontline means that it's your human resources that must be really competent, motivated. It was trying to change the paradigm, get them to realize that, and get them to accept changes that will improve their competency, that will open their minds to new things, no? New ways of education. Life in this planet has transformed. It has not just reformed. In other words, reform means making changes within the box.
Yes.
You're reforming, but you're still within the box. Transformation is making changes outside the box. And life, technology 10 years ago is quite different
Yes.
from it is now. Your children are more wired than you.
Yes.
And my grandchildren are more wired than me.
Yes.
And the teacher, in the past, the teacher is the parang authority and the only source of information and data in the
Yes,
classroom.
yes.
That's not true anymore.
Yeah, not anymore.
Not anymore.
Not anymore.
So, we have to revisit that.
Especially the teacher you had. She can't be the only source of information anymore.
Exactly, So,
Did you ever go back to her, by the way, and tell her?
no. But there's an anecdote. They say, if a doctor who died 50 years ago comes back to life now and visits a hospital, he'll be amazed that he won't recognize the diagnostic equipment, etc., etc.
Yeah.
If a teacher who died 50 years ago comes back now,
Yes.
he will wonder whether he died at all, because there's still the blackboard and the chalk, and the teacher is still instructional rather than participative.
Yes.
In some schools, they don't even have new blackboards.
Yeah, I know.
No, but that is what is sad. There's to be transformation. You know, the best, what is considered the most modern educational system in the world, the school of the future, they call it, is Finland,
Finland.
What's
where,
it
where
like?
Nokia
Yeah.
telephones are made.
Been there.
They're so digitalized and they're so technologically advanced that we think that their classrooms, you know, we met there, ministers of education, and
Yes.
we called it the school of the future. What they're doing now.
Because
Yet when the minister spoke, she said, the expected advancement of technology in the next 5 years, scary. And we are so insecure that we'll be obsolete. I said, why are we not insecure? Why are we not even worried
Exactly.
when we're like 20 years behind you?
Yes.
All right?
right.
That's what's really something to be scared about. Because, for example, in the Philippines, we're archipelagic, right? And in Cebu, you're happy that during graduation, the English is good, etc. I'm glad to hear that, but I'm sorry to say that the challenge is to have the same standard in all islands. And we cannot do that if we are not wired, if we are not
Yes.
connected.
Yes.
Because how do you deliver, how do you give access to everyone in the Philippines of the same high quality materials that Philippine Science High School, for example, is enjoying? And you cannot do that if you are not connected, if you are not on digital
Yeah.
content.
You were speaking about people who afraid of change. You know, I was the other night I was talking to some friends, and one of my friends owned the school, and she was talking about years ago when they were going to computerize everything, and all the teachers were like, you know,
Scared.
taken aback, and none of them were open to it. And they were teachers for like so many years, and it was very difficult actually to, you know, open it up.
I'm
to
glad you
them.
mentioned that. We should start with the teachers. And that's why we've trained over 100,000. And I was pleasantly surprised that people abroad were watching what we were doing here.